Why don't we jump right into Big Navi, because that is the big
Yes.
energy this week. AMD has
I mean,
finally,
yeah,
yeah, it is. AMD
yeah.
has finally revealed their first add-in graphics cards featuring their RDNA 2 technology. Big Navi really is way more fun to say, though. RDNA 2 is the same graphics technology that is to be found in the upcoming next-generation consoles, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S and Series X. But obviously, these are the high-end PC versions, and it looks like, at least on the surface, they are going to absolutely mop the floor with the console versions, as long as you've got the money to pay to play, because they ain't going to be cheap. Although, with what NVIDIA's done with high-end graphics card pricing over the last 5 years or so, I mean, hey, $1,000 for a graphics card? That sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
What a great deal.
It's all about what you're used to, right? It's what you're used to. So the lineup is the Radeon RX 6800, which AMD says will be faster than an RTX 3070 at $579, and the 3070 is around $499. That is probably going to be the least competitive in the lineup. It's got 60 compute units, 1.8 gigahertz game clock, 2.1 gig boost. So if you're water cooling, you might get a fair bit more performance, and 16 gigs of GDDR6 non-X. And that is a 250 watt card. Then if you step up to the XT, honestly, the 6800 and 6800 XT sound so different in performance that it kind of surprises me that it's not like a 6700, 6800 move.
Yeah, they probably shouldn't have done the XT moniker thing. I strongly agree with that. It's not like, oh, this, like, yeah, it's not a little bump. It's very significant.
It's still 16 gigs of GDDR6, so no GDDR6X like NVIDIA's been using, and no HBM memory, which poor AMD, like, it's been hilarious for the AMD fanboys, like how to identify an AMD fanboy. Okay, over the last few years. Well, NVIDIA doesn't even have HBM memory.
And like, how much do they know about HBM, and how much do they care about HBM?
Who cares? Who cares? It doesn't matter. The price, performance, and power consumption suck. So the HBM memory is like, okay, good for you. So HBM memory is nowhere to be found, which is probably how they're managing to do $649 for what they're saying is a 3080 competitor. So they're undercutting NVIDIA by about $50 here. It's got 72 CUs, 2 gigahertz game clock. Like, this thing is going to be way faster than the 6800. Then this, I have no idea. Like, had you heard any credible rumor about a 6900 XT?
No,
anything.
Not at all. I strongly did not believe, and I was very wrong, clearly. I strongly did not believe they were going to come out being able to compete at the high end at all. And I believe I even said that like a month ago.
Oh, probably.
On WAN.
And there's no way that I would have challenged you on it, but I was not only surprised that we got a legitimate, well, we're going to get, we hope, we're going to be getting legitimate high-end offerings from AMD's Radeon division. Not only that, but they managed to surprise me entirely with a top-of-the-line 6900 XT. This one's got 80 versus 72 compute units for the 6800, 2 gigahertz game clock, 16 gigs GDDR6 again, and they are claiming roughly equivalent performance to the RTX 3090, but undercutting it by $500. Now, part of that difference in price is obviously going to be that the RTX 3090 comes with significantly more expensive GDDR6 memory and a lot more of it. But, I mean, hey, we said this about HBM memory, didn't we? And HBM2 after that. Your fancy memory ain't going to do you much good if you don't got the performance. So
yeah, and also like the 3090s, as much as NVIDIA's branding around like workstation, non-workstation cards is confusing and misleading constantly. But the 3090 is like technically more positioned for non-gamers.
Yep.
And it feels like the 6900 XT isn't. This feels like it's straight up gamer department.
Straight up gamer. And I mean, as much as NVIDIA might position things as not for gamers, they send very mixed messages.
Is.
Yeah, they send very mixed messages.
Absolutely.
You know what's funny though? The only reason that we want any 3090s, like we are actually, I didn't buy it at first. I was like, what do you mean the 3080 is the flagship? Obviously, we're going to do all of our showcase builds with 3090s, but I've actually kind of bought into the whole 3080 is the top of the line and 3090 is like ridiculous now, because it just is not enough more performance for how much more expensive it is. Like, it's
also
not
like doesn't exist.
Yeah, and it also doesn't exist.
Speaking about, sorry, go for it.
I was just going to say, the only thing that we're even considering using one for internally is for very, very large video editing projects. All the editing work editors, they want 3090s. And then even the people who told me they were going to buy 3090s, even when they knew it was $1,500, David's one of them at work. He was like, after he saw the performance results, he was like, nah, I'm just going to get 3080. There you go. Hold that thought. Devly in Floatplane chat says 3090 is Titan. No, 3090 is not Titan.
Yeah,
I made it very clear in our review that the 3090 is not Titan. It costs as much as a Titan, so I can see why you're confused. But it's not a Titan because it doesn't have any of the Titan driver optimizations. It's just a really fast gaming card. Boom. All right.
So you were talking earlier about how it seemed weird that the 6800 got the XT moniker.
Yeah.
And they're like so different.
Yeah.
What is interesting to me is how similar, while still being quite different, sure, but how similar the 6800 XT and the 6900 XT are
in terms of spec.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
like
only
everything's the same except for compute units.
There's only 8 more compute units.
Yeah, which is like, that's great. But like almost everything else is different for the 6800 to 6800 XT.
Yep.
Like they're incredibly different cards.
12 more compute units, higher game clocks. I mean, okay, other than that, they're very similar. Higher power consumption, though. Yep.
So it's like almost everything is the same except for the memory.
Now let's talk features. All the new GPUs support DirectX 12 Ultimate, including direct storage. So direct storage, for the uninitiated, is that thing that I put my foot in my mouth over a while back where I was making fun of the PlayStation 5's SSD. Okay, it's not quite the same thing. Sony's implementation is likely slightly different, but
you're treading on dangerous ground there for a second.
The underlying hardware is obviously a Big Navi, okay? So yes, Sony's software implementation isn't direct storage, which is TM Microsoft, but it's basically functionally the same thing. So it allows the GPU to have direct access to the main system storage. So it'll support variable rate shading and ray tracing via what AMD is calling ray accelerators, not to be confused with RT cores. Okay, those are built into each compute unit. Now, AMD also will apparently have a take on DLSS upscaling. They're going to be calling it super resolution, not to be confused with virtual super resolution, which is AMD's upsampling technology.
That's a little annoying.
Okay. How hard is it to come up with like a brand for this kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Apparently very hard.
Maybe try to not call it the same thing.
Yeah.
So what's your feel?
Oh, my feel is
what's the vibe?
I'm so okay. So I'm gonna tell us. Let's do story time. Mine is story time.
Sure. Yeah.
I remember when AMD launched Polaris. Polaris was their big like Radeon is back. Yeah, we're gonna stop re-releasing the same graphics card with a new name over and over and over again. This is gonna be awesome. When they launched Polaris, they had a big event, like everyone and their dog was there. They actually sponsored a video from me, which usually is an indication of one of two things. It either indicates things are going really well or that things are going really not as well. And I had actually read it based on the amount of buzz from AMD people as things are going really well. And they just wanted to like make a big splash. And that was actually the video where Raja Kaduri dropped the card, which was very funny. That pretty much made that video. I loved it. Anyway, I remember showing up and like the big AMD is back moment, aside from pricing, it was very price competitive. So that was good until pricing like basically went up with the 500 series and then way up during the mining craze, but that's a whole different thing. We won't talk about that. Their big, like, we're back in the high end was like a Crossfire slide where they were like, yeah, dual 470s or dual 480s or whatever was on it. It's like very competitive with NVIDIA's like card that's actually good on the high end. And like Crossfire supported on like lots of motherboards.
And they were trying to brag about Crossfire quality at that time as well.
Yeah. How'd that work out for them? Bad. So my problem is that AMD has disappointed me and hyped me up so many times, and even like that wasn't that long ago. Like there's people that are still, Roger's not there, but there's people still at AMD who worked with me on that event, and I was like.
And like, to be clear, just something to add in here, because I know there's going to be people like me that enjoy pointing out that it's not just AMD that does that. It's happened with NVIDIA. It's happened with Intel. It's happened with basically everybody. It's happened a lot with AMD, and it's happened over the years. It wasn't like centralized at one point in time.
Yes. AMD has been disappointing me for as long as I've been making tech videos. So it's like... well, before actually, if we go really far back,
yeah.
So that's my problem. You know, that's why I have a really hard time with this. But fine, go.
These look kind of awesome.
They do look kind of awesome, but they always do this. Okay, so here's where it could go wrong. The drivers could be buggy and flaky, like we experienced with the 5700 series. Speaking of disappointments that weren't very long ago. They have gotten better since then, but at launch, they just shouldn't have launched at that time. Like at launch, they were not good. So the drivers
also
could be bad.
Continued driver support is often a little bit more rough on that side. And they seem to prioritize like weird features that I don't think anyone really cares about, and then kind of they'll like half-ass it.
And then they're not competitive on stuff that matters, like video encoding.
Yes.
So disappointments. Another disappointment could be features. So they've like got an answer to everything from NVIDIA, but they've had an answer to a lot of NVIDIA's tech, like Shadowplay, for example, for a long time, but it's so who cares? So that's another way that it could disappoint. Another way it could disappoint is so far everything that I've seen in the slides is like average FPS. As far as I know, that's here. Hold on, let me pull up these images. Yeah, all they're showing is frames per second, which I would have to assume is average frames per second. It could be terrible when it comes to like 99th percentile minimums, and it could be really stuttery. Yeah, so it could be a stuttery mess. Not actually effectively running at that level of smoothness. But also, AMD's recent swagger on the CPU side of things has been mostly based on measuring things the way that the tech press likes to measure it, not just kind of like making up their own metrics for things and saying, yay, we're competitive. Go AMD, stonks. It's been better than that for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm going to let AMD into my heart one more time.
I think you'd do it more than once. I think if they disappointed you this time, I think you'd do it again. But I am feeling pretty good about this. They have been on an uptrend overall for quite a while now. And we've been kind of waiting for GPU to catch up.
Yes,
so
we have.
Hopefully this is it. I think if you just buy off the hop, I think no matter what the scenario, I think no matter what the brand, you're taking a risk. I would still definitely wait for reviews. I would also wait. We saw this with 3000 series. I would also wait for user reviews as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because even the professional reviewers, it's a sample size of dozens. Right.
And there's some brute force style testing that you can't really do.
Yes. Like compatibility testing.
Compatibility testing, like weird settings in specific games, weird resolution combinations, like a few things like that just probably aren't going to get tested.
Yep.
That's part of the reason why we've always suggested looking at a variety of reviewers.
Absolutely.
And that also ties into user reviews. So I would be cautious, but excited. Yeah, this looks awesome. I'm stoked. I'm really happy to have them back up. There's been all these memes, like there's a meme of Lisa Su dressed up as the Reaper, and like Intel's door is already like knocked down, and then they're like knocking on NVIDIA's door. It's cool. I like it. I like the energy. I'm happy competition is coming. Intel had their day. Now it's time for NVIDIA to hopefully get wrecked. that would be very, very healthy and good for the PC environment. So I hope they do it. I'm also excited to see just like full out Team Red computers. I think that's really cool and something we haven't seen in a way that I would say is legitimately in quite a long time.
Have you seen this?
I have not seen this, but that's amazing.
Only 426 people have seen this so far, but we can I can post this in the chat if you guys want to go enjoy it for yourselves. This is fantastic. Basically, this already existed, but yeah. Anyway, you know what? It doesn't matter. We can put that away for now. It's pretty funny. Yeah, lots of AMD memes these days.
One of the slaps that they did was out of stock. We are definitely yet to see how many of these cards are going to be available.
Let's wait and see. Because with all the excitement around gaming in general right now, guys, like remember, it's like not just Techtober, it's like new console launch Techtober. And new console launch means lots of exciting games coming. Cyberpunk. How many tens of thousands of people are going to be upgrading their gaming PCs for Cyberpunk 2077? Like,
yeah, and it's COVID Techtober too.
Oh yeah.
People are knowing they're going to be stuck inside over the winter way more than they normally are.
All that pent up demand.
And now, they're ready to do stuff.
One thing I don't have any demand for is AMD graphics cards in my workstations. Am I wrong to think that? OpenCL?
I don't think so. Well, because generally, okay, for one, yeah, it's probably just gonna be worse. But also, generally, you've usually stayed a gen back, haven't you, for stability reasons?
You know what?
I know you're talking about 3090s right now, but like, isn't that a thing?
Usually, we've stayed a gen back on CPU and GPU. We are talking about going 3090, and the reason for it is just that there's nothing current gen that makes any sense. So we could get current gen Quadros because we need more memory. That's the problem. So we can't go 2080 Ti. It's only got 11 gigs of memory. It's not enough because, and honestly, it's a bug with our 12K Blackmagic footage that we're trying to figure out if we can even freaking use. So RTX 3090 plus our Threadripper workstations seems to handle it. But I do like you said, I do worry about going current gen anything. So that's part of it. And then the other part of it is just NVIDIA's support in the applications that we use is just not even close to the same realm that AMD occupies. So it would be really, really tough for us to go AMD for our actual workstations, even if I would consider it for my personal rig. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe part of this is just habit, but man, it would take more than just being price competitive for me to consider walking away from NVIDIA for my personal rig, because you got to consider like how does customer trust work, right? Like I remember a time when graphics card driver crashes were a normal thing. I don't remember the last time I had one, and your experience might have been different. You know, maybe your power supply is not as good, or maybe there's some weird edge case compatibility issue with that game you love to play, or whatever the case may be. But my experience has been fantastic. And for me, it's really hard at my, stage in life where I don't have as much time to tinker with things. Like I don't even overclock my personal rig because I just can't be arsed. I don't need a little bit more performance per dollar. I need something that just works so that if I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to play a game, I play a game instead of tune the graphics card or reinstall the driver or whatever the case may be. So it would be really, really, really hard.
Especially with a lot of people doing work from home and their personal computers it's not just for gaming or doing whatever else they want to do on it personally, but it's also for work stuff. That has to have 100% uptime.
Now,
it has to be like fantastic.
AMD says they're making a commitment to, driver it up. And, that's great. But, it's if you can't keep it consistent from one board partner to another, well, actually, yeah, you end up with an NVIDIA RTX 3080, don't you? We've got a chat from Ferno182 in the Floatplane chat here. My experience with the 5700 XT reference Gigabyte has been very good so far, but I know there's a lot of people that had tons of driver issues. Totally. Meanwhile, AJ is like, yeah, mine's been great on my HTPC, but like, AJ, you went and you put it in like a secondary machine. Would you put it in your daily driver, in your main rig? Yeah. Interesting. There's a couple more interesting features that we should talk about that make Radeon 6000 series unique. There's 128 megs of infinity cache that's on die that's over twice as fast as the GDDR6 and is apparently to help reduce memory bandwidth bottlenecks. And there's a set bonus. So this
I like that.
is interesting. Smart Access Memory provides the CPU with full access to all of the GPU's memory. That is, as long as you're running Ryzen 5000 series. And apparently, you're looking at a 6 to 10% speed up in games that benefit. Now, rumblings online suggest that this is an implementation of the resizable bar feature that Microsoft is pushing, meaning that future NVIDIA GPUs and Intel CPUs may support it, but it's only AMD for now. And what's really cool is that games don't necessarily need explicit support for it. That could be a very exciting advantage for AMD in order to entice people to buy an all-red machine.
It's cool.
Communist
it's a cool
computer.
feature. And I was gonna say, like, there's another thing that's gonna get people to buy AMD, which is anything but Intel NVIDIA fans. People that just want to anyways. But there's the same thing on the other side. Like you were saying, you're used to NVIDIA, so you might want to stick there anyways. But yeah, you said earlier that AMD has had an answer for all of NVIDIA's features. I don't think that's quite true, but they also have unique stuff like this. So that's cool. Not very much. I think this is pretty much it.
That's a pretty big deal, though. Like
it is. It is super cool.
6 to 10% extra performance is better than a kick in the teeth. That's what I always say. And
that's a standard quote of mine.
And they've got Rage Mode, which is an automatic overclocking function that essentially just sets a higher power target. So it's not really overclocking, and AMD claims only a 1 to 2% speed up. So pretty much it's just what you could do in like 2 seconds in Afterburner on an NVIDIA card. It's worth.
Someone needs to make a custom PC that's like fire themed, and when Rage Mode activates, it like lights the flames up or something.
We actually have an engineer on staff at Creator Warehouse now that probably would have the capability to do something like that.
That would be sick.
That would be amazing.
You guys should do it. That'd be cool.
I don't want to be responsible for someone's house burning down. Okay, let me get through this and then I will tell you something that this person's working on that is actually started out really stupid and is turning into something that maybe is cool. So it's worth pointing out that NVIDIA's RTX 3070 launch was stretched out from the 27th to the 29th in what appeared to be an attempt to bury the Radeon announcement. However, the AMD hype seems to have prevailed. We don't know how NVIDIA is going to respond, but then again, hold on, let me just make sure this isn't embargoed. Burke. Not that Burke, different Burke.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, I had an email glitch. If you want to check out any of this for your test bed. Nope, not that one. Embargoed information, 10:30. Embargo lift is, 10:30, 6 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So NVIDIA has a Black Ops, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War bundle with RTX 3080 and 3090 that's running now. So that's one of the responses, is giving away games. You can always tell competition's heating up when free games start coming with graphics cards again. Remember when graphics cards came with like 4 or 5 free games?
Or that even?
And like good ones, like you'd get like Prince of Persia and like some Assassin's Creed game and then like a couple little ones you hadn't heard of. I'm like, yeah, cool. I've got like games to play for the next couple of months.
It also used to be like a relatively major form of, this was probably against terms of service, but it used to be a relatively major form of rebate, as people would try to flip the games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it was a thing.
People would try to flip the games. People, Luke? People. Would you know the names of any of these people?
None of them. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, I have a worse confession.
Okay,
when I was a sales rep, from time to time, I would have people come in and buy a system with SLI, and I'd be like, hey, you just got 2 copies of that game. You need both of them? More often than not, they'd be like, you know what? You've been very helpful. Here you go.
Oh my God.
I definitely got some games that way.
Did you flip them?
No, I tried to be a good boy. So no, I did not actually flip games. I did give them away to people, but I did not flip them.
Okay.